Hello everyone, and welcome to the newest season of Gooey's Dungeon Dive on the Minish Cap. I'm joined by my co-host, Corey Richmond. How's it going, Corey?
Woohoo! It's good. I don't get the Wind Waker correspondent introduction anymore, but co-host is nice.
You're the Eslo to my Link.
Yeah. I just constantly pop up and annoy you.
In search of the light force once held by the hero of man, the sorcerer Vati has released evil monsters into the world by breaking the Picori blade that sealed them within. Vati curses Princess Zelda, turning her to stone. King Daltus of Hyrule sends us on a quest to reforge the Picori blade. This leads us to the Minish Woods, where we meet a talking hat named Eslo, which grants us the ability to shrink down in size and find Minish Village, where their elder, Gintari, tells us to reforge the sword, we must collect the 4 sacred elements of the world. And here we are. We're just a little guy.
Look at that little nugget, little Link nugget.
So yeah, we're doing things a little different this season. We're going to be doing a regular Gooey's Dungeon live on some of these dungeons in the Minish Cap, with Corey joining me, providing some expert commentary.
Of course. That's what I'm here for. The color, the flavor.
Look how cute we are.
Yeah.
We're just a little Link. But yeah, here we are. I kind of gave the intro on what's going on in the story, but we're right here outside of our very first dungeon, which you have to enter as a little baby Link. Oh, and even we get we're here right close
nice
up,
entry,
right at the entrance.
A little foyer, a little entryway.
But yeah, so, we're little now, and we are in the Deepwood Shrine. Oh, and right away we get some text from Eslo here. So, yeah, we're where, the Elder told us to be. And there's gonna be monsters.
Oh, yeah. I think it's pretty great right off the bat, just like entering as a Minish, and then like that's something to pay attention to throughout the whole thing, and just throughout the whole game really, is the way that they theme like the dungeons where you're small. Like it changes the enemies, changes the decorations and stuff, changes the vibe.
Yeah, and the dungeons, here we have our first puzzle here. Pushing a statue, I guess.
Now you know,
but
statues are movable.
They take advantage. Like here, you were just saying, some of our first enemies are these little baby slugs.
Yeah, slugulas.
Now, we're in this dark room. Here I want to show off, I think one of the first things I always notice about this game when playing is, okay, and I start stepping on these switches, and what do you know, the room lights up. We get a chest. It's the intro dungeon teaching you, okay, get a key, opens locked doors.
Switches, yeah, teaches you about floor switches. They activate stuff.
Now, what always happens here is Eslo has to come out and tell you about the locked door and finding a key to open it, I'm always like...
Do you think they were, like, expecting people to just, like, try and go up there first?
I can see that. I mean... doesn't that... I guess that happens in Ocarina of Time, too, when you go up to the doors, but that feels a little excessive.
Yeah, it does, especially after you have the key.
But, here we got... It's kind of a succession of some, puzzles kind of setting up... Oh!
He's got a...
Okay.
Do you see that lever, Goo?
I like it. It's, like, right when you're right by it,
Yeah.
Yeah, Eslo, I think he's a little talky. He's definitely a little talky.
He's a talky guy.
It's actually kind of interesting. Like, oh, look at that. So now, here's our first puzzle that we gotta kind of think. You grab this little mushroom here.
Yeah.
Fling him. I feel like we actually, people think of, Navi kind of came in and started the companion thing, and people kind of, there's certain negative connotations with them, but we've actually, the last few games, it's not really been a thing as much, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But now Eslo's out in full force.
Well, even Navi though, like if you, I think Navi just kind of has that connotation, but like To be honest, Eslo probably pops up even more.
Oh, I mean, definitely, it feels definitely more forced. Or Navi, look at this mushroom. Here's another great enemy here.
Guy. We can't
It's
do
kind
anything
of
to him
blocking
yet,
my
though.
way. No, can't do anything. And oh, look at this. Oh, look at this.
Oh, the dust is
oh
slowing
no!
you
What
down.
he's dropping some
It's
stuff.
making
Maybe
more.
Now we
There's
do
a
have
lot
some
of,
items. You know, we can shield them.
There's a lot of setup just in these first few rooms.
You get up here, speaking of, here's Eslo a little bit more.
Wow,
Look at that
the
barrel.
size of that barrel.
It's not big. We're just small.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, what do you think? Unfortunately, we're talking about how we're recording this. Corey can't really hear, but we've got kind of a vibe here. We've got some kind of rather spooky music.
Yeah,
I would
it
say.
is.
You
It is
can't
pretty
go by
spooky.
here, right? Oh, you can. Okay,
I
you
like
can't
it.
do anything.
I appreciate the theme here. I think the dungeon themes in this game are generally pretty good, but I like it a lot.
Here's inside the barrel, lovely barrel. We burned one side of the barrel, some of the vines, but
And it's like, what's going on here? Another use of floor switches activating stuff.
yeah, it's pretty basic setup here. You know. Oh, what?
Here we
what
go.
can be done?
Now we get a little combination puzzle. It's like, hey, you know about floor switches and you know about statues. Do them both.
This game definitely ups the like puzzle-ness of some of the, I don't know, it feels a little bit more puzzly. Oh,
Be careful, my lad.
okay, that's a fair hint, because you could maybe just walk right out. Here we got some more of these
This is
webs
great.
that we can't move. You like the moving barrel?
Oh,
Let's
I
just
love
take
it.
it for a spin here real quick.
I love it. I think it looks
I mean,
so
just
good.
the visual effect is really cool.
Well, I think this is something that like we'll get into it more as the series goes on, as the season goes on, but like that's something we've kind of discussed is like whether or not 2D games like have the ability to pull off these kind of big set piece puzzles effectively.
Oh,
in ways that 3D games can, because like it's just harder to convey stuff in 2D. I think this game like because of the additional, the higher resolution pixel art and stuff, I think they're much easier able to get stuff like that across, like that big barrel,
The barrel is definitely a standout in that regard.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, what do you think the overall vibe here in this dungeon? I guess it's supposed to be like you're little, you're in the woods, so there's, bugs and little I don't know what the thing I just fought was, but
it's got kind of like a we'll get there. Is this our first time? No, not our first time seeing water. We've already seen some water, so we know there's a little bit of water. There's kind of like mossy vines. It's like a little bit overgrown. I was kind of thinking about this, and it's like, it seems like it's a shrine that maybe the Minish built or something, and it's just kind of like been overgrown, which is something that's definitely been done in the series before and after, but it does feel pretty unique to me, I think, especially the addition of like the water, because usually when we get the overgrown thing, it's like a lot of vines, a lot of bushes, sometimes some poisonous stuff. This place, this feels dank. It feels very dank in here.
it does, yeah. Very, very nice detail on some of the walls and stuff like that,
This era of pixel art is just so satisfying to me personally.
Okay, so we got a bridge here.
What we need now is something to hold down this switch. Yeah. I wish you didn't say that. Because
it's the first dungeon, you know.
I do actually think that's a really creative, because it's it is simple stuff, but if we're playing this game for the first time, or any Zelda game for the first time, it's like, all right, teaching you about switches, and then it's teaching you about things that hold down switches. And
See, here's a slightly more advanced one.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like a good step up. Then they teach you how to grab and pull, because you can push this, but
Yep.
Obviously, you can't get to the chest, so you got to do a little one of these. That's cute.
Yeah, that's really clever. Like, it makes you think about... That's like a full combination. It's like temporary switches, holding down switches, using the statues, but now also you got to think about your own positioning, which is pretty cool.
This kind of begins too. Here, if we can pull up the map again real quick. This is actually kind of how the if you asked me to draw any Zelda map from memory, it would probably be in this shape.
Yeah.
Of coming to the big central room.
Yep.
The one just to the right of where we are currently, and then all these offshoots that kind of loop around back into it.
Yeah.
I honestly think, I mean, that's been an element in many dungeons before, but I think this game really, that's kind of solidifies that sort of part of the puzzle, you know?
Yeah. I think we got
that sort of the formula, I should say.
I feel like we got a decent amount of that in Wind Waker too. And that's
True,
something that
true.
like this game definitely stands out in a unique way amongst other Zelda games, but also it's interesting to note just how much it takes from Wind Waker. Like aesthetically
Oh, yeah.
and I don't know, just other gameplay wise.
It's got the thing where it makes you feel, ooh, see, you gotta watch.
Yeah,
you know,
that's a
how
neat
you're-
little one there. Like before it was you could just pull back as much as you wanted, and there you could have possibly overshot it.
It has that quality. I feel like I don't want to jump too far ahead, but that's the quality I associate with a lot of the Twilight Princess dungeons of like feeling kind of complex and like you're really picking the knot at the dungeon, but it is a little bit guided. I don't know if you've noticed,
Yeah.
like both, not counting the first key that we got in like the first room, like that one where we had to get the two things to clear the barrel, and you can kind of do it in any order, but it's right there in the same room. But then the second key, you know, you've got the one place to use it, and it's a nice little bit of backtracking, you know, but it is like, yeah, I don't know, it's set in a way where it's like you can't fail. You can't really fail at it, you know. You'll work your way back there, and we're kind of on a loop. What are these guys?
Ooh, I always thought they were like little ladybug type things, like little mean ladybugs.
They're weird to me. But even now, here, if we look at our map again, we are on a little loop around on its own.
I'm okay with that in the first dungeon, definitely.
Oh yeah.
Because even like stuff like the Great Deku Tree, like that's a very similar. Like there's not really many places for you to go, and that is something that I do. I was kind of looking at the map of this earlier, and it is interesting. Like just right here, you went up before, and then we're like, no, I'm gonna go back down. You could have come up here and jumped down, and then been like,
Yes.
well, I can't do stuff yet, you know.
No, yeah, that's like, and with this one, I mean, yeah, it does offer you, even here we have a little bit of options
got a
of
little
some
choice.
areas to explore. So we can go down here and actually, I mean, this is the site of another loop we'll be taking around.
Yep.
As here we get the compass. But yeah, it's like yeah, I don't know, that's a pretty good honestly a pretty good way to start your opening dungeon, especially because
sure.
it does really make it feel like, see, we can't get to this chest because
It streamlines it, and I think this game. Now there's a puzzler.
Here's a puzzler. Oh, okay, that's nice. See, that
is kind of nice that he's like, maybe don't worry about this right now, because I could see someone playing this for the first time being like, well, maybe I should be able to do this now, and just getting stuck.
Though I will say, here's what I'm thinking. You're in this room. You just got the compass. You maybe got the map. This is a good opportunity to pull out your map and maybe think, maybe there's another way, you know.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I can kind of forgive some of the hints and stuff like that on these early dungeons.
That is something dungeon-wise that I think is kind of similar to. Oh no. That's kind of similar to Wind Waker. Is that like the layouts are pretty streamlined. Like, there's not a lot of places you're gonna get lost, but it's more focused on like the little micro puzzles, like more individual puzzle heavy rooms.
Oh, like, so here we could have. Yeah, this is kind of the story of a lot of the, other than the first key, a lot of the keys in this of you can discover the locked door and then have to go elsewhere to kind of actually get in.
Yeah.
And even I like this touch here where you've got a little
Yeah,
tease.
you can't even get through.
Can't even get in there. Look at that creature.
Yeah, big blue caterpillar.
Well, let's go give him a taste of our medicine. Taste his own medicine, a piece of our mind. You know the old saying.
Uh-oh.
What's this guy called?
Matterpillar.
Matterpillar.
He's a mad caterpillar. Yeah.
This is a fun little fight.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Another one that makes you think about your positioning. And these, I think the little bouncy spider webs are a pretty good obstacle too. As I've been playing this, I'm sort of feeling like the combat and stuff in this game reminds me a lot of the Link's Awakening remake, where like it's not compared to the other handhelds where I feel like the movement and stuff is crazy. This, you do kind of feel like a little guy. Yeah.
A little guy running around.
Something I like about both this game and Link's Awakening remake. Oh, we just got an important thing first though.
Yes, let's show it off real quick.
The Gust Jar.
The Gust Jar, which now, I mean, there's another great little moment. You can now start to use it in this room. I think that's a good hint too, like that these were here before and we couldn't enter, but now, ooh.
And that you can't get out of the room. It's like, all right, I got to do something.
True, yeah.
And now
we got another way to go.
Now it's the classic Zelda thing. It's like, oh, piecing together the dots. We saw a bunch of those spider webs. Now I can do something about them.
And we get a little collectible here.
Yeah, a little nice little piece of heart, a little optional.
And now, one of the most satisfying things in Zelda, when you can start to use it against these enemies who, I mean, in this, it's like that you couldn't even hurt them.
Yeah, we couldn't
do anything.
Pretty nice.
Oh wait, we might need some of these. This is like a double. Oh, holy smokes!
Look at all these chests.
Oh jeez.
See, this is right off the bat. The Gust Jar needs to come back. I know we got the Gust Bellows, but the Gust Jar I think is a sweet item, and right off the bat, we've already gotten multiple uses for it. Like it sucks up the dust.
Oh jeez.
Sucks up the dust. It hurts, or makes these guys vulnerable. It sucks up spider webs. That's already 3 uses right off the bat.
Mm-hmm. I feel like, is there one more thing in this room? Or am I imagining? I feel like there's a way to get that. Yeah, well, you know what? We're here. We might as well suck this stuff up.
I mean, this floor probably hasn't been cleaned in years.
I couldn't remember. Oh, no, you know what it is? I know how to get this, I think. We'll come back to it. But then, of course, we get to loop back around and use it right here.
Yeah, look at that.
This thing that we've seen this whole time.
Whoa, boy.
Oh, it wouldn't stop doing it. It wasn't responding there. Ah!
Falls down. That's fantastic to me. And now it brings us to a little, like, separate themed, it's like watery section.
Yeah, we're down on this lower level here.
That's reminiscent to me of I think they were taking cues from Ocarina of Time from Great Deku Tree.
Great Deku Tree, for sure. Let's take a moment to appreciate this lily pad. Look at the sprite work here.
I appreciate the gameplay of this. This is something that's actually like straight from Wind Waker.
Yeah.
But again, another use for the Gust Jar. Moving the lily pad towards you and moving the lily pad itself with you on it.
Get away from me. Let's see, this way. I don't remember. Is this like a... I don't remember which way you want to go first.
Do some exploring.
I mean, that's, again, kind of what I was saying earlier. I feel like it's, the thing with these dungeons, it's like, they usually offer you two routes, two branches, and kind of really one of them is the way you want to go.
Yeah, that's fair. I do think it's nice. Oh, that's something I was gonna say is like stuff like streamlining that kind of like loop process that goes all the way back to like Eastern Palace, A Link to the Past. Like that does a very similar thing too, where it's like a nice streamlined loop. You don't really get lost, but there's enough kind of room for choices a little bit.
This reminds me of many of the a key.
Got a small key.
This is the way we wanted to go.
Yeah.
This reminds me of many of the I don't know, it reminds me of Woodfall a little bit, you know. A lot of the great intro dungeons especially kind of do that.
For sure.
Oh, we get a nice open path. Certainly or Deku Tree kind of stands out as an interesting one because it's even more or even like it's more simplistic actually. I feel like because it is just like climb up, jump down. You know, you need the weapon obviously to get by the, but you know, going in that one branch doesn't even feel like a loop. You know, it just feels like a tiny little branch.
Yeah. Just go up, go down this little path, come out, keep doing it.
And here we are. Have we been in here? No, we haven't been in here. So, some more mushroom pulling.
Using the mushrooms. Why don't you just ultra hand those over there? Don't you have
start
that?
Glue it. Well, no, what I'm gonna do is use a rocket and then.
Whoa.
Oh, jeez.
And just like that, another use for the gust jar.
Yeah, that would be actually pretty cool. That would be a good Zonai device, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. The Zonai gust jar.
I mean, in this room here we go. We're, you know, before we were finding all the different ways to pull on these mushrooms, and now comes full circle with using the gust jar. And what do we think about this big key?
We did a big key ranking. I don't know what's going on with this big key.
Why isn't the eye red?
I don't know. That's why, like, come on, big central red eye. Got a
and
little
here,
warp
this
point.
is nice. They kind of warp
Even
us
more
back.
streamlining.
Yeah. That's, you know, it's okay. It's okay. But I will usually err towards. I know. I guess out of that room, there's not necessarily like a path out anyway. But there's some nice rupees. But you know, I do like a little bit of complication. You know.
I think it's mostly excusable in intro dungeons, but other than that, like sometimes it can be okay if like the area, like say you finish going through a loop or something, and then it's like it gives you a warp back to the central room or to the entrance or something. I think that's alright if the only reason you would go back to that wing is if you wanted to get extra like collectibles or something. You know?
I goofed up. Look, we missed some chests even too.
Look at that.
We're not going to go back to get them. They are, I mean, I might off camera. This is not going to be a 100% thing, but it shows. I mean, this was an element present in Wind Waker, I feel like, big time. I mean, in all the games, but Wind Waker, it stood out more, where there are these sort of, what do you call them? Optional backtracky goodies.
Little extra chests.
I think in that room where I thought I knew how to get to that chest, I actually think I messed that up, but that's okay. But here we are before this big old boss door.
That is a cool boss door, though. I like that.
What about this intro cutscene to this boss?
We got a green choo-choo doing
Just
something.
Just a green choo-choo, no big deal.
Suspicious. Yeah, those guys take like a couple hits to beat, right?
This is pretty cute. Love the slime animation here.
Yeah.
Hello?
Boom.
Ah!
Big green choo-choo.
Big green choo-choo. Oh, maybe I shouldn't pick up these pots. Well.
That's great. That's so good.
Yeah, really, really clever. Really cute.
Really driving home that little Link idea.
And so let's, there's not much you can do to hurt this fella, other than, of course, get the dungeon item going.
Another use. That's like
I guess,
7
what do you
uses
do?
for the Gust Jar.
You make... Is this here we made him too top heavy?
Yeah. He's got no support. He's gonna fall.
Ow! That hurt.
Oh, that's something I was gonna say that I forgot. Something about this game and Link's Awakening Remake that I love. You can slash the sword so quick, like as fast as you can mash the button. I love that.
That is nice. Did I get him? No. Okay, here we go.
Whoa! He kind of looks like a fish here to me.
Like his big... These shoes are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I like their big, goofy look they give you.
Yeah. And this is like another Wind Waker design.
So it's kind of a... This is a pretty basic first boss, but, you know, the spectacle and the novelty of it is pretty fun.
Yeah. This is another one, though, too, where it's like, you can't stand still in this. You'll get bonked. Even after you get him with the item, and he's toppling over, you're like, uh-oh, gotta get out of the way.
Yeah, that's kind of the charm and the quality of these games. The things I was kind of saying, like, oh, the navigation's not hard, the combat's not hard, but it makes up for it in kind of just being engaging in general, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that makes sense, as this series kind of turns towards being more all ages, and
I think there's this boss definitely isn't too hard. I could for sure see beginners dying to this boss, but I think
for sure.
I think the combat in this game definitely takes a step up towards the end.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, we'll get into that for sure. I mean, we might even see me. Who knows? Yeah. we might give up before this is done. The power of Earth is the source of all living things. I like this. Feels like a little bit of a throwback to, I guess, Oracle of Seasons a little bit.
True.
Yeah, we got our Earth element. We got a nice chunky heart container here.
Love that.
And let's warp on out of here. See what the deal is. We got the Earth element. Gotta go tell the Elder, which we'll do on our own. But I think that was a good showing of the first dungeon. Why don't we switch on over to the rankings? How did Deepwood Shrine fit into your list?
So, it's kind of tough, like doing the first dungeon from each game, because a lot of games handle dungeons very differently, and it's always like comparing apples and oranges, because you just have to think of like what it reminds you of, and usually it's better when you have like other dungeons from that game, because then you can use that as a baseline, right? One of the first things that this reminded me, and still reminds me of a lot, is something we brought up, which is the Great Deku Tree, which we were both pretty favorable on that. Right now I have the Great Deku Tree, inside the Great Deku Tree, at 28 on my list, which isn't crazy high, but it's like, considering the way my list is grouped, it's kind of like just below or just at the bottom of dungeons that I think are great. That's like the barrier into the great dungeons. And comparing these two dungeons side by side, I think they do a lot of things very similarly, but I honestly think I prefer Deepwood Shrine more, just because and that's kind of something that we hit on in this, is that the Great Deku Tree is very simple. It's a very, very simple, like even more than this, both puzzle and navigation wise. And I think that's partially because the Great Deku Tree probably serves better as a tutorial for the game, because it's like the first 3D Zelda game. It's teaching a lot of people how to play in a 3D space. Whereas I think this does a great job of being an intro and tutorial dungeon, but I also think if you kind of took it out of that context and plugged it somewhere else in the game, I still think it would be a pretty solid dungeon. it's definitely easy comparatively, but like all those little micro challenges and little micro puzzles that build off of each other, I think they do that in a very, very good way. And then
for sure, yeah.
So that kind of just made me that was my benchmark, was starting above the Great Deku Tree. But then like I immediately, the one right above that was Skull Dungeon from Oracle of Ages, and I started comparing those, and that's like a much more fully fleshed out fun experience. So I kind of immediately stopped it right there. I was like, I don't think I can push Deepwood Shrine that high. So I ended up putting it directly above inside the Great Deku Tree. So right now it's sitting at number 27 on my list.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I totally see what you're saying. I think this one, though, too, in terms of being a tutorial, like leading up to this point, the game hasn't had, I think, a ton of like gameplay. Like there's a lot of like walking. There's some combat, wandering around, but this still, I feel like, serves in a similar manner to like the Great Deku Tree of being a tutorial of certain elements. It actually reminded me a lot of some of the early A Link to the Past dungeons, where some of the things they're teaching about are just how to push things or press down switches, and like in this case putting things on switches, which are very very simple type thing. So it had that element, but then it does add in like this kind of more unique item to the mix that kind of plays along with some of the mechanics you were also learning about. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Especially for Zelda fans, like, pushing pots on blocks and pressing switches, that's all second nature, but to someone who's just playing, like maybe this was someone's first Zelda game, like that is stuff that you have to learn. And I think in that context especially, like some of those, the way they develop those puzzles every step of the way, I think is really, really cool. And like you said, the Gust Jar gives me a similar satisfaction to another awesome intro dungeon, which is Tail Cave, which like you see all these little holes in the ground and little things that you can't reach and stuff like that, and then you get the Rock's Feather, and it's immediate gratification. You just start using it left and right. And
yes.
Similar with the Gust Jar.
And while I think we talked about how Eslo kind of overshares in this a little bit, even with that, I like that they leave the the Gust Jar in the barrel puzzle, I guess you could say. They leave that one still a little bit open. It's a little bit, I mean, I feel like it's very memorable. I mean, it's designed in a way to be very memorable, and they do kind of have a nice path carved out to you, like with a shortcut back to it. But I feel like that's a really good puzzle, like a standout puzzle to me. That's less I don't know, it's less like immediate as like, oh, there's a locked door, get a key, come back. It is one where you get that thing and you just start using it everywhere. And you're gonna probably end up in that barrel like really soon, but
it kind of
I thought that was really cool
towards there, like we mentioned. But I like that it's not, at that point, to get out of the room, you had to learn that all those spider webs you've been seeing, you can suck them up now. And it's like, it might not even, you might not even realize that you're unlocking a new area. You're probably just going to see spiderweb, gotta suck it up. And then it's like, oh, there's a little hole down there, I can fall down there.
They do a good job, though. I think they, it's similar to Ocarina of Time, where they kind of can tease you, because like when you're moving the barrel, you can kind of see water, underneath the web. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So for my ranking, I had a slightly different strategy. Well, slightly similar actually, where I pulled up my list and I was like, we've gone on so long that I'm like, it's getting really hard to compare these like one at a time here. or like, you know what I mean, in this greater context. And like I was looking at Tail Cave at mine, and I'm like, man, Tail Cave, I it's kind of low. I want to bump it up a little. So we'll talk about that later, but I might bump up Tail Cave. But
yeah, that's
anyway, what I was doing was I was looking at these dungeons, and I pulled from my list some of the intro dungeons, and I was sort of thinking about them like this in comparison to that. And it's a little hard to compare because, like we talked about, some games have to do more tutorial than others in the dungeon itself as opposed to the game. So, it's sometimes a little bit like comparing apples and oranges. Or you have a case like Wind Waker where it's like, what is the intro dungeon? But I was looking at the ones like I saw Woodfall Temple, for example, which I have kind of lower-ish, kind of with some of the more simple dungeons in the series. And I was like, I definitely like it more than that. And then I was looking more of in the range of Tail Cave, and inside the Deku Tree, there's sort of a run there that I sort of like. And I'm similar to you. You have Deku Tree at 28. I have it at 30. And when I look above it, a lot of them I'm like, these are some of the
breaching the
sickest
upper
dungeons
echelon.
to me. Not the tippy top, but getting to the like really good dungeons that I like. And so I've honestly have had a hard time placing it because I think, for example, some of the little puzzles, the little gameplay puzzles, are a bit more novel than like Tail Cave. But I do like that. We were talking about kind of the pathing and stuff. I do like that Tail Cave is a little bit more, kind of like find your way, but in that the gameplay is a little bit more simplistic, so it's kind of a trade-off. And then with the Deku Tree, I was, in our gameplay segment, I was saying even that I feel like is more simple, but I think the novelty of the puzzle of jumping through the web is way more effective in that one for me. So I was kind of thinking about somewhere in between those two, if that seems fair.
That makes sense.
All right. Okay. Gotta check myself, So then I was looking at the ones below Deku Tree, and I actually think I like Dragon Roost actually is right there. So I think we're in good territory because I like Dragon Roost a lot. The puzzles a lot in that one really stand out to me, even though a lot of them are pick up this sword and throw it or whatever.
Yeah.
I think we're in a good territory. What I'm kind of coming down to is that I think I sort of want to put this below. I think I want to put it below Unicorn's Cave, which is a dungeon that I didn't give its due. Yeah, I don't know if you remember that.
You did it dirty. That's my favorite.
I did it
Oracle
dirty.
Dungeon.
Yeah. We'll consider moving it up. But I think this is good. I have it above then, like, what I think are awesome intros that are like split dungeons, the Hyrule Castle Forsaken Fortress intro-ish areas.
Yeah.
And in there with, I think we've got it in there with, in the mix with more mid dungeons like Angler's Tunnel and Unicorn Cave, where things do get a little bit more complex. And I think it says a lot about the dungeon that it's the intro dungeon, but it holds strong in that territory. So I think that's where I'm gonna put it.
Nice.
And I'm probably gonna move Tail Cave up.
That's fair.
I feel like I've been you know what? While we're here, I'm just gonna do that now that I'm thinking about it. I'm gonna move it just one for now. How about that? And then we'll see. There'll be the story of Tail Cave if it can go up anymore.
Push up.
But it's going above Face Shrine.
I feel like every time I look at my list, there's always I always see something that strikes me, and I'm like, why did I do that? But that's why I think it's helpful to like do a full blown thought process on like why, like you kind of have to get into the weeds of it a little bit and like be like, all right, why do I like this one more than this one? Because usually once I start thinking about it again, I remember the things that I was like, okay, well I was kind of rationalizing it this way or whatever. So if that stuff does hold up, then it's like, okay, that makes sense why I put it there. But if it doesn't hold up, I think that's a great reason to be like, all right, well maybe I should bump this up then.
The reason that really it did that for me was I was just thinking about all these intro dungeons, and what I appreciate about them, and I think just some of my affection for that made me want to bump it. But yeah, so it's going a few spots below Deku Tree, but I think I also do understand your, putting it above, and I definitely couldn't have put it above any of the ones I have above it, because when I look at those, I really like these dungeons up there. So yeah, I'm thinking fair. Right now, Deku Tree is kind of the measuring stick for me for like
for the intro dungeons, or for the greats,
just for the upper. I mean, it's a top 30, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's the same. That's the same for me. It's literally the gateway for me. And like, if this were a list of best tutorials, best video game tutorials, I might even put Great Deku Tree higher, because I think it teaches you a lot about like how to play the game. Whereas I feel like because this is a dungeon list, I kind of look at it a little differently.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I was pulling right now and you were doing what are your best, even if I guess it's a slightly different thing, because I do have things on here you could consider the tutorials, like the first part of Hyrule Castle, Forsaken Fortress, for example. But when I'm thinking of best intro dungeons, and I guess Dragon Roost is a bit wonky, so it doesn't quite fit, but it kind of does. But I can see like Deku Tree, Deepwood Shrine, Tail Cave, like those immediately come to mind. So I think we got a great strong showing here for Minish Cap early on. Like I said, I was pointing out, it's just sort of thoughts that I'm having as I'm playing, and I'm replaying because I played it before. So when I was pointing out kind of some of the simpler elements, it's not necessarily a negative on it, just thoughts I'm having, but it is something that we'll see how that goes. I'm hoping, I hope with all these games, I think about them in the context of the game. We'll see how the game, if what the dungeons in the future ones build off of that, if they if the gameplay develops, if the the structure develops, whatever else happens. So it's different with this one because we haven't recorded any of the other intro dungeons live, but
yeah,
as I'm playing like Spirit's Grave, I'm also thinking similar, or Spirit's Grave or Dodongo's Cavern, Eastern Palace. I'm sort of thinking like, yeah, these are pretty basic, but they're okay. That's okay in the context of their games.
That's okay at this point.
Yeah, and it says a lot about this one that it's way above those. So
yeah, yep.
Yeah, I'm excited to continue on in our quest. We got the element, and we'll see where we go from there. We will see everybody in the Cave of Flames.